It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 114, The Invisible Enemy.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, baby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS will be free of the force field.
But the TARDIS is more than a machine, Stephen. It's like a person, you see.
The resulting reaction is Friday. Are you ready?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your classic Doctor Who podcast, brought to you tri-weekly. By law, we have to. We used to do bi-weekly, and we ran into that problem with the horse. Dan, how are you today on this July 4th, America's birthday? Happy birthday.
Happy America Day, everyone else in the world. Because you don't get enough of us. We're insufferable on our birthday.
Do you have a lot of fireworks where you're at, Dan? It was
Nightly.
Yeah, it was pretty rough last night. There was a lot of fireworks all over.
Fireworks. Yep.
Neighbors, we have a neighbor with a dragon on his roof. True story. And he goes like, it was like as if you were going to like a professional fireworks show. It was ridiculous. And he just kept going and going and going.
Did he like start at midnight? Because that's the time my neighbors like to go.
He went from like 9 and then it kept going until like 11 o'clock. It was still
until his house burns down.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I'm a little over fireworks. Like, nah. Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of dogs don't like it, so it's like sort of, it's like, yeah, right already.
All over Twitter, I keep seeing posts from people saying, this is the day of the year that most, how do you say it? More pets are lost on this day than any other day of the year, is what they say. Because they get scared and run away.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
My dogs are fine with it. I've had dogs in the past that it's been a nightmare, so I feel lucky that at least our 2 dogs are cool. But we're not here to talk about fireworks, Dan. Dan, we're not here to talk about fireworks. How was your 3 weeks? It wasn't all fireworks. It was a lot more than that.
It was a lot of tweets about this. What's it called? There's this new book out called Goblin, I think.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess the mandatory opening show, Goblin, fantasy adventure graphic novel for 10-year-olds and over, is right now on sale. Written by me, art by Will Perkins.
If you give it to a 9-year-old, God help you.
Yep. Huge thank you to our UK fans who must be buying the book because it's selling some copies over there. If you need your copy, you can go to realmofgoblin.com, and all the links there are to U.S. stores. Now, if you are in the UK or Australia or Ireland or wherever you're from, it's available in your, you don't have to import it. So you should be able to go to whatever store you normally go to get books, even Amazon or whatever, and you should be able to find it. So you should do that. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can get it anywhere. If you're in a research station in Antarctica, I'm sure there's a local bookseller.
If I have to go down there and deliver it, thing style.
Eric's doing a signing in Antarctica next week, so get ready.
What a turnout! Yeah. So that's good.
Great.
Thank you, Dan, for the plug.
Of course.
Yeah,
Someone
please,
here is doing something interesting.
Please buy him.
We might as well talk about him.
So nothing was going on in Dan world?
In my world right now. I just got back from walking the dogs. I met a new dog friend, scratched him on the face, and he immediately turned and peed on me. So my life is going really well right now. What's there to complain about?
It's all good. It sounds like a good time. I'm not sure how that happened. I imagine the dog friend was attached to a human, and it wasn't just some random dog that you jumped on and then were peed on. I have one of those flying bugs in my office. It's not a mosquito, but it looks like a mosquito. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those like
really big legs?
Big things that look like mosquitoes, but they're not. What are they called?
I've always heard people refer to them as mosquito hawks, but I don't think that's a thing. I think it's just
a mosquito hawk. Sounds great. I wish it was a mosquito hawk. Yeah, so you're meeting animals in the woods. I'm writing about the woods. We are quite a pair. quite.
This was in the urban setting at a dog park, and it took me half an hour to get that dog to pee on me. So I'm pretty happy about it.
Just throwing bills at it. Come on.
What, is my money no good here?
Daddy's got a
Come
new
on.
pair of shoes. Yeah. So speaking of weird things that go inside you, that's not right. Let's talk about the
That's
invisible.
not what happened.
Let's talk about the invisible enemy. The
All right,
invisible enemy, Dan.
Indivisible.
Unless you have anything else to add before we.
I don't care.
Yeah, let's
talk
just
about
get
this
into
thing.
it. We're all dying to talk about this story.
Are we?
So why don't you hit the button?
We're all dying because we have to talk
Yep,
about this
by
story.
law. To
Fantastic.
Brewster's Million
I'm gonna-
situations. If we don't review all of the Doctor Who shows within 30 days, what happens?
We expire.
We expire. We may. Yep.
Eric's drinking some American
Peace.
punch right
I'm
now.
drinking
getting-
some,
it's mostly
The blood of
moonshine,
children.
isn't it?
No. I got this at the when I was getting my vaccine over at the pizza place. I always get my. I go, give me another child's juice. No, that sounds more wrong than I intended it to be.
No, you. And the thing is, you meant it to sound really wrong. So
Now, and see, some lunatic will take this. Take this audio and then try to
and keep
to
it in
ruin
context
me later.
because in context it's still not good. They didn't have to do a thing.
No matter how
You know what?
yeah, it's all fine.
We're just gonna hit that button. And
Hit
get
the
the hell
button,
out
my
of here.
friend.
Ready?
Woo-doo! It's the invisible enemy.
There is one other with the host. She has been rejected. We must destroy her and dispose of her body with the rest. Take up your positions.
Hello, Lally.
Are you all right?
Rightly perfect, thank you, yet, Lally.
What did you say?
I said I'm perfectly all right, thank you, Lally.
My name is Leela.
I know your name. Leela.
What happened?
Must have had a bot of a shick.
What?
A bot of a shick.
Doctor, what is it? What's the matter?
A voice or something in my head.
The evil thing.
Nonsense. Just a nasty turn. Come on. We're on Titan. Let's take a look.
He loves you. All right, the invisible enemy, Dan.
Unless your name's Leela.
What was the name? I guess we'll get to it. The Rejected? No, not the Rejected. The Unloved. The Invisible Enemy. This was the second serial
Unloved?
from season number 15, lucky number 15. This was the first appearance of K9, too, for all you fans of that
K9-1.
robotic dog. This is written by the Baker and Martin team, which we've seen before.
And later
we'll
goes
see
on to become Rowan and Martin.
and we'll see again. Yeah, and Rowan and Martin's laughing. It would be a lot more interesting if one of the characters was just painted Goldie Hawn style.
Yeah.
And they just cut to...
Sock it
cut
to me.
This is directed by Derek Goodwin. The Doctor flies through a cloud of virus, a COVID cloud, and there's a spaceship and Titan, and they're all infected, and there's a shrimp involved. Dan, I don't even know how to properly... there's an inner space, Fantastic Voyage element to this. There's a lot going on in 4 episodes. We don't really need a synopsis because it won't matter.
I don't think so. It won't matter.
Dan, what did you think of the 3-man rocket crew and their adventure on Titan Base in this story, The Invisible Enemy?
The Invisible Enemy. Well, first of all, it's great. We're doing another Tom Baker story. We all love the Tom Baker.
Yeah, normally.
I do not like the pairing of Tom Baker and Leela.
You get
very
the
much
sense
at
that
all.
they don't like the pairing of Tom Baker.
Do not. I don't know if they don't like it. The writers don't like it. Someone doesn't like it. Many people don't because it is.
It's a little
excruciating.
It's a little like they're in 2 different stories too. Like, well, you go. You give me your thoughts, and then I will interject
okay,
my.
I mean, overall, let's talk about the good things. The good things.
Yep.
Tom Baker's great. He can make anything more fun and interesting. So he does have some great moments of levity. There's some interesting lore stuff that gets talked about briefly that we'll come back to later when he's talking about the super mind, super brain thing that he can't do anymore. There's pretty good acting all around. I think actually most of the performances are very good. The production design, I think everything in terms of the miniatures, and there are a lot of miniatures. The miniatures for the planet and the asteroid and all the stuff looks great.
Well, the production
except for the ship.
Yeah.
The ship looks like a Fisher Price child's toy. But other than on a string. But other than that, like the web effect in space that has the alien cloud that they're flying through, I thought it all looked really good. So there was a lot to like about aspects of the story. The overall story, it was fine. I kind of like the idea of the virus and the mind control. Actually, I think all of that was great until we got to the cloning part, where it really was just a complete ripoff of Fantastic Voyage. Just there was nothing really interesting to me about that, and some very strange things around like the mind brain.
Oh, the main mind brain bridge.
Was it? The the Lane Bryant bridge.
Yep.
I mean, strange. It's apparently a wind tunnel. Anyway, and getting to see the first episode with K9, we've reviewed stories with K9 before. We saw the final story with K9 Mark II, wandering off with Romana too. So like we've seen that. Now we got to see the beginning of it. So that was fun. I didn't know that was in this story. The creature design, they were swinging for the fences. But I think they didn't quite get there.
Yeah, they were swinging for the fences. Okay. They were in the wrong park.
Oh, I see. Yes. But that's my overall whatever. It was fine. Eric, what did you think about this story?
I always like Tom Baker. Obviously, he's always interesting. Mm-hmm. Having said that, this is my least favorite Tom Baker story I think we've ever done.
Hey-o.
I didn't really like it at all. You mentioned the production design being good, and it is at times, but it's also awful at times. Like, the stuff in his mind when he gets injected, and I like that. I understand it borrows heavily from Fantastic Voyage, but I like all of that shrinking you down and putting you in the body. All that's fine. So that part I thought was interesting, and I thought the set decoration and everything within Tom Baker's mind, including Tom Baker's hairy balls that play you've got crabs and hairy balls inside of Tom. That was all fine. I thought some of the miniature stuff, like even like when you saw the hospital, the space hospital, where they had it looked like it was clay and they had all the little windows and the only lights in the whole place on are the one room that people are and everything else was black.
Right.
I didn't love that kind of look. And I thought the costume design of that white helmet was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. That was like the most uninspired white cap, which I didn't like. I didn't love the story. I mean, I like the ideas,
the elements,
but the execution was terrible.
Sure.
So I liked the invisible enemy. It's a very contagious thing that passes from person to person. Like, that whole thing was cool. And that, it's an invasion of the body snatchers type thing, except you get clearly hair on your arms for some reason. Or the guy that's like, it's my eyes. And then he just walks around with those dumb sunglasses. And he's like, I got a laser blast to the face. All that stuff was fine. But it just was, I don't know. I felt like it was, by the last episode, I felt it so boring. And it felt like they knew how bad the lobster man was, or the shrimp man, or whatever you want to talk it. And so most of it was just voiceover versus Tom Baker in a door for like a long. You didn't even see the enemy at some point. He was just running from the voice, and it was all really just kind of stupid. And I don't really understand the story all that well. Like, so there's this race of beings, this swarm, right? They've got like a hive mind.
Sure.
So there's the nucleus, or did I say that
and
right?
That's the
Who
thing
knows?
that actually can.
Yes, so that's sort of
generates
the master control unit of this swarm.
and the thing that causes the reproduction as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So his goal, or her goal, or their goal, there's no gender in this space cloud, wants to take over Tom Baker, or the Doctor's body, so that he or she or they can access time control, right? Or have access to the TARDIS, and they can not just all of space, but all of time. Fine.
Yes.
Gets into Tom Baker's body, is gonna win, right? But then Tom Baker copies himself and goes inside of his own body, and then is about to kill the Lobster Man, but he dies before it can happen, right? Because it's a Blade Runner limited life Tears and Rain moment. I think should have had a moment like that instead of the way they did it.
I would have gone with Logan's Run instead, but okay.
It was a little confusing, even that thing, because it almost looks like he does kill the thing, but he died, whatever.
Yeah.
And then he leaves the body. But he wanted to be in the body, but he leaves the body because he reads the Doctor's mind about the tear ducts. Fine, and then he decides that his macro, like being bigger, makes more sense than being smaller, but it doesn't. They're actually much more. They have a better a plan if they do this virus thing, and they're the invisible enemy, not the visible enemy. So why did he leave?
He made a tactical mistake, man. It happens.
It was fine. It
he
was stupid.
Suspended
And then
animation for who knows how long.
I guess so. It's like the first time. It's like one of those videos. Instead of a cute video about a little boy hearing for the first time, this is a terrible video about a lobster learning
Making
to
bad
walk for the
choices.
first. And he has trouble walking.
Cannot walk.
He cannot walk. And there's like wild and crazy arm movements of the shrimp man. It was just bad. I thought the end was like anything that I liked about it. You know, he had COVID face shields. You had everything. It was a rip from the headlines. Everything was working. And then I felt like the last episode, it completely fell apart. Like they were out of money and time, and it was just
and ideas
and
caring.
I mean, you have all these eyebrows, and then they just they don't really do anything. You have like one of the lines, "Some of my best friends are humans." That was fine. I don't know. I was very I was just very disappointed. All in all,
Yeah, no, I agree. So like from the very beginning, everything between the Doctor and Leela just, and I don't know, I should have looked at this before. How long has Leela been with the Doctor by this point?
That's a good question. We definitely saw her first.
Yeah.
This is after Talons of Wang Chiang, which despite its racism is a much, much better. I mean, you're coming off it's like Robots of Death before that. So there's like these bangers that are coming out that are amazing. So she's in all of those. I'm trying to remember when's her. I'm going to go through the timeline here. She's in Face of Evil, right?
I'm going back.
I think maybe Face of Evil's her
podcasting, right?
Yeah,
here.
no,
People
it's good. It's
screaming
real
at
time figuring it out. I think Face of Evil was her first story.
Evil.
Right? Because Deadly Assassin, he has no companion. I think Face of Evil is her planet. And I think that's where she joins. So that's at least 1, 2... About 3 or 4, let's just say 3 or 4 stories they've been together. So they've been getting together a good amount of time when you figure they're each 4 parts or 6 parts. So she's not necessarily new, but they're still getting to know each other.
I guess they're still, or whatever. So the reason I asked that is the number of times that the Doctor derides Leela as being a savage, of being unintellectual. So there's this whole idea, how is it that these virus aliens are
affect everyone but
able
her.
to infect people, but Leela's immune somehow, and maybe there's some physiological thing, and they data analyze her, and they look in, there's nothing physiologically that's preventing it, so it must be because she's dumb.
Right.
I mean, it's just ridiculous, and that's like the biggest part when they say it. But there's many times leading up to that where she's like, you just rely on your instinct, and
and they do that thing too, where the companion has the idea, and then the doctor's dismissive of it, and then they end up doing that idea, right? And then that's sort of the joke. But in this case, it didn't even work. It just felt like, I don't know, the way that it is executed is like, oh no, maybe that, you know, usually the doctor can make that be charming, and in this case, he just seemed like a jerk, and like it's just. But you're right, like the whole premise of why she's immune to this is because she's a dope, or she's all instinct and intuition, as they say.
Yeah.
She's also like one of the only women in it, so it's like the first thing they should have thought of was like, well, this is the only woman that it's come in contact with. But but then later when you get to the hospital, you get the nurse. But
which, I mean, to be fair, they really accentuated the nurse's role in the story by putting her in shiny green pleather.
Yeah, I liked when Leela went as the nurse and went.
Yeah.
And K9
is the makeup on her face.
K9 is great, but there's just even it's all these like really very convenient moments with K9 where all of a sudden he does exactly what he needs to do, and then he literally shuts himself off, or he runs into a wall. Like there's just it just was like just really poorly executed. I felt there was no real tension ever, even though there should have been. I don't know. I was not too happy. And I mentioned to you, like, I kept falling asleep for the last one. I mean, granted, it was like past after 10 o'clock at night, but I was having a hard go on episode 4.
I mean, yeah, it is. You, even though you may have been falling in and out of sleep as you're watching it,
Didn't matter.
Watching it, yeah, completely like intently didn't make it any better. So I don't think that was a bad choice of yours. I mean, okay, so... But
the shrimp thing is also so dumb. And I talked about the arm thing, but I just kept hearing, like, Steve Martin go, 2 wild and crazy guys. that's all. It was just so dumb. It was not good.
I mean, on paper, I could see a production designer, costume designer, sketching out what that creature looks like, and it's like, oh... yeah, that looks really cool. And then they put it together and like, oh, no.
Its first form was cooler because it was horrifying. It looked like something out of Eraserhead. It was just this mound of flesh and like a Cronenberg pile of things with like one limp
deformed
claw coming out. It's like, all right, this is a horrifying nightmare. And then all of a sudden it became just basically a shrimp or a lobster or whatever.
Yeah,
and they refer to him as a crustacean.
A seahorse shrimp dog is what he looks like to me. That's what I wrote. I don't know. I mean, man, there's just not a whole lot to say about this one.
It's not great.
There's a lot going.
Yeah, it's not great.
Leela gets to murder people with her knife. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, a lot of knife murders. But before, just to jump back on the thing we were talking about, the sets.
Yeah.
What's up with it was like 3 leather lazy boys. And like a modern piece of dining room furniture you would have gotten in like 1984. That was the interior of the ship. Like it opened, it was like, oh boy, where it was just the 3 guys. There's 2 guys like in leather lazy boys in the back,
trying to nap or something. I think
don't know what in the back. Was that the only room? And there was all these different locations. Like they're on the ship. But then there also go to the Titan base. But then there's also the medic. Like, couldn't they have just had the medical base on Titan base? Like, there was all this like back and forth, and then the doctors go to the medical base, and then they watch them go back to Titan, and then
because Titan was the place they were actually going to.
I know, but just consolidate some of those locations.
Yeah.
And why can't the guy gets K9? He's lost his dog. He's got a robot dog. He says it like 1,000 times. This is my best friend in the world. I'm like, I'm with you. I like the robot dog more than the people. And then he just gives the dog away in a way that's sort of weird. Do we see him again? Because he's like, I'm going to Earth. Could you watch my dog? And then the doctor steals his dog for a couple seasons. And then the dog, I don't even remember how K9, does K9 die? Does
K9 Mark II, this is the first K9 Mark II that the doctor's been upgrading, leaves with Romana 2 at the end of...
Well, what about this guy who's good, it's his dog?
He's never going to get it back. It's fine. This was just for you, though, but that professor, did he at all remind you of Dr. Jacoby? I just kept seeing
I could see that. I mean, the red and blue glasses were a dead giveaway.
Well, yeah, he only had the blue glasses, but that would have been great. But yeah, so he invented K9. I'd like the
and Jacoby did that.
K9,
Jacoby did that ping pong ball thing where he put the ping pong ball in one ear and made it come out his other ear as a little trick,
Right.
and then there was ping pong balls inside Tom Baker, which was a prisoner thing too. That made me think of you when we were seeing the giant white balls.
that was the
that were hairy
his
for some
white
reason.
blood cells coming to eat the people's. Yeah, I mean, there's that one little funny. Sort of funny joke as they're inside his brain and like an electrical current goes by, and what was that? It was just a passing thought.
No, the one that was great after that part was good too. But then when something else happens and he's like, I'm kicking my leg up, and then they cut to the very animated leg kick. It was that part was okay. It was on its face stupid. You know, the cloning part was especially dumb, and then they
So
only
weird.
last for
10 minutes.
10 minutes? Like, what? And the doctor
Right.
knew about it. Was just like, well, that's not really I don't know. It's all fine.
It's like, that was some sort of technology that really had no purpose. It was more like a circus trick than anything else. Okay,
Yeah, why
sure.
would
It
you
still
need
seems really
that?
useful.
Why would you need that other than just a fake history or to have like? But it's not faking because you have the same, and it doesn't make any sense,
Everything.
right? So
No,
like
it makes no
whatever
sense.
you feel, whatever your clone, whatever happens to your real body, somehow the clone also feels like because you're made of the same tissue, and you're like, okay,
I guess.
Sure.
I mean, if they're able to clone a whole body and the clothing they're wearing, then who knows what can happen, really. It's
right. But at that
impressive
point, are they
science.
sharing memories? Does the current doctor remember what he did inside?
See, this is another thing you need to put in your notebook
Yeah.
for your fan fiction / unsolicited comic book story.
And that's
that
how
you-
they get the antidote is from Leela dying inside of him.
that led to antibodies
That
somehow.
led to I guess
Yeah.
it's all fine.
So the only other part that I mentioned this briefly earlier, as they're wandering through the doctor's brain, he points out a structure in the brain that says this is reflex link, whereby he can tune himself into the Time Lord intelligentsia.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
1,000 super brains in one. I lost that particular faculty when they kicked me out, which was, I don't know if you've ever seen a reference to that previously or since, but it is a kind of cool concept. We've never really seen it. I'm sure it's probably, if we haven't seen it in a TV story, maybe it features in some of the audio or prose.
Yeah, that part was cool.
This super brain thing is kind of a cool
And
concept.
it's also like that part of Doctor Who where people don't know of the Time Lords because like
Right.
they she says Gallifrey and she thinks
this
it's
virus
Ireland.
does.
Ireland. The virus does. Yeah, that's a good point. The virus does, but when the humans don't, right? Because when they're putting in his medical records, they say Gallifrey and they make some like it's Ireland or something, right?
Right. And then they realize he's not human. There's the two hearts and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the doctor is very excited
know.
about the medical doctor is very excited about that.
Yeah. Dr. Jacoby is. Yeah.
I don't know. It was
The
disappointing.
only other thing that I think is maybe interesting, but I think is notable in this story, I think people kind of know this story for it, is the phonetic spelling of things throughout the ship.
Oh,
So, like,
yes, yeah.
Emergency exit, the way that it's spelled. Like,
Right.
I don't know what that was supposed to do. I mean, people are saying, oh, it's because, languages evolve over time and this is showing whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It was just so useless and just...
Yeah, that was odd.
It was weird.
That was very odd. But it was at least it was something.
It
I
was
mean, I guess
something.
they were going for some world building. Also, new TARDIS set, which I had read this, I did not pick up on
Okay,
it,
yeah.
right? Because the old wooden one that we had used previous to this had warped or something, and that now they did this newer one that's actually a throwback to the old one, which is kind of
Right.
like just plain
And the way that the doctor describes this, so we're not doing these chronologically, as you all know. Leela, when they come into this control room, says that she's never been in there before, and the doctor refers to this white control room as the second control room. The wooden one is the primary control room.
Oh
which is
yeah,
not
because there
something
was
I
a
realized
secondary
before.
control room. I do remember
This
us
is the
doing
secondary
that.
control room, so we've always been really located in the secondary one. With this brief detour off to the primary one with the wood, which I never liked anyway. But
Kate, this episode, this story, whatever, aired in 77. So Star Wars is out. So do we all think this was just we got to get an R2D2? So let's get an R2-D2 in there. Because I
always
did some
thought-
reading. We usually don't do post-reading, but I was curious about K9. And I had read when they were writing this, they didn't really know he was going to be a companion. So he was just going to be this one-off robot dog. And then while they were filming it or whatever, they're like, "Oh, we'll make him the companion." So they have that little ending where he can go with them. But was it a response to how popular Star Wars comes out the same year, but only like May, and I don't even know when it came out in the UK. If that was just the US that was May,
Right.
but was it? I mean, it seems like it was influenced, like that the ratings are sort of lagging in Doctor Who, I believe, at this point. So let's bring in we need one of them robot dogs. I don't know if that's a real thing.
I had always thought that it was something for ratings. It was specifically to bring in more kids. I don't know that it's necessarily related to Star Wars, but
Right,
really,
so they
honestly,
both are
around that time,
arriving at the.
What else?
Because that was huge.
What
Like
hasn't
after
been?
R2-D2, it was like Buck Rogers and Twiggy,
Tweaky,
whatever his name was. Like everyone had. There was that other show that had like the round. I can't even remember. There was some other
No, that was
space
Buck Rogers
show.
too. He carried Tweaky carried around the.
Did he have
the
a
smart
small
computer.
baby?
Like Flava Flav and the clock around his neck. It was
Yes,
that kind of
yes.
stuff.
But I'm thinking of something else. Maybe it's the robots from Black Hole or something. It doesn't
Okay.
matter. Everything's fine.
No, nothing matters. It's cool. Oh, the fact that K9 could get mind controlled, but Leela couldn't. Anyway, I'm sorry. It's just like, okay, whatever. Weird.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
It was also kind of fun, like, not fun, just strange. When they go to the asteroid hospital, space station, whatever, it really immediately turned into like Saint Elsewhere in space. It was just a very strange kind of. Aren't medical healthcare systems just so Byzantine? And the nurse like typing all the stuff and
Yep.
getting her. I don't know. It was just I don't know. This story, man.
Yeah, you
I don't think
literally
there's much
were
more to
like, we
talk about.
need to have a whole and getting into the hospital routine, where even
Yeah,
the
we
guy's
really need to
asking
spend
about his
15
eyes, and
minutes.
he's going with the joke long enough to get actually seen by a doctor before he infects them. Like he went to the room. I'm assuming a nurse took him there, said the doctor will be here in 10 minutes, and then that guy stayed there for 10 minutes,
hanging
sitting
out.
on, playing with the tissue paper under his rear, and then the doctor came in, and then he face blasted him.
Zapped him in the eyeballs. Yeah, I mean they were trying to take over the smartest people. Not those dumb nurses and Leela. I don't know, man.
Yeah, it was weird. The whole Leela being immune thing was strange. It could have been like, oh, from her planet, but it was like, no, because she's so. It was just dumb.
Savage.
The predator instinct.
Yeah. That's why he needed her come into his brain with him.
Right, and so they
Because
just
he needed
kept having her
predator
stab
skills.
people. It's hard to do anything with that kind of character too, because you're writing her into a box.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's all fine.
Well, I mean, you don't have to write her into a box. You can use that as a starting point and go anywhere with her, but they just chose not to. They just chose.
I don't even remember how
box the
she
whole time.
gets married off to a king of something. Is that what happens?
Sure, let's say that.
I think we watched it. I just can't remember.
I try not to. Anything else we can talk about on this one? Because
I don't know. Is this
quick.
10 minutes long, our review? Because I can't remember. I have my notes are not great. I mean, it's
I have
all
plenty of notes, but there's nothing here.
When the doctor's balls attack. I mean, how many times am I going to write that? We get it, Eric. Yeah, I got nothing.
Right.
I got nothing unless you have anything. What do you think of K9? Are you happy with K9? I usually like K9.
Yeah.
I like
it's fine.
he doesn't have much as, he's got a little bit of his personality, but not, I don't feel like, they work on
not
that
fully
a bit.
not fully developed yet, but definitely there. It feels like K9. Even with this sort of tongue-in-cheek stuff that K9 is more known for later, when Dr. Jacoby says, I built K9 to be able to do all the things that I can do. And K9 says, and better, and more, or whatever. And the Jacoby looks back at him like, huh? There's cute stuff like that. Yeah, he was fine. Not my favorite character. He's loud as heck when they're driving that RC car around to make him move around. He's just really, really grinding the gears.
It's
and,
weird the way
obviously
he
same
shuts
issues.
down. Like when he becomes evil and attacks Leela and just runs into
rebooted.
the wall. And when it was happening, I was like, is that part of the story? Or did they lose control of it and hit the wall and then they made it a part of the story? He just
a little
decides to
column A,
shut
little-
down and then like he reboots and he's like, yeah, I'm totally cold now.
Yeah.
It's so weird. The stories was just so strange. Right? Like if he hadn't shut down, he's like a formidable laser destroyer.
Until he runs out of energy, like he did towards the end. So it was that kind of like plot device convenience thing whenever they needed it, but then they also turned it into a contrivance that made things harder. Like it just the way they were using him, it was not a great story. I'm gonna blame most of this on the writing. And the fact that apparently it seems like that Tom Baker doesn't really like.
Well, is that true? I feel like we
know
did
that's
talk
true. I
about
don't
that
know.
before, and I feel like there is.
I don't care.
Maybe
as much.
some disagreements, and I feel like we covered that in some
I think we
previous thing that we reviewed.
It's less important to me whether the actual actors liked each other or not than it is what appears on screen, and it just does not appear that there's any chemistry really on screen at all. He keeps correcting her all the time, and in just such in a way that he does with other companions that seems, like you said, can seem charming other times, but with her, did not feel.
Yeah, I had to look up her last story. Leela's last story is The Invasion of Time, which I'm sure we did. It has something to do with the Sontarans. No, maybe we never did that one. The Sontarans invade Gallifrey. That doesn't ring a bell.
No, I don't think we have done that one.
Maybe we will.
Oh, let's keep our fingers
Well,
crossed.
what did
for another
other
pairing
people?
like
Since
this.
you and I seem to have finished what we thought of this, what did other people think?
Yeah,
We're gonna do Invasion of Time, so spoilers. I guess I spoiled it for myself. That's our last stow, and it involves the Sontarans and Gallifrey, and now I've spoiled it for you. Who got married to the king? Nissa.
I'll forget everything. Yeah, that
Somebody
seems right.
got married off to a king in a strange way.
Was it Adric?
Who's Adric?
Good job, Adric. So thank you guys. I did put out briefly a quick. Tell us what you think. Actually, no, Eric did, and then the old Doctor Who show on Twitter. That's TODW show on Twitter. We asked for your feedback. Got a little bit of feedback on this one. Katie Niekamp says half the aliens during Davidson's run look like they're from an 80s glam rock band. I would go back as far as say like that. Yes, that connects to this one especially. We didn't really talk about the eye makeup, the sequiny glitter, feather boa, huge Scottish eyebrows. Eye
The
makeup
eyebrows
we got going
were really kicking.
on. They're beautiful.
Yeah. And for what reason? I mean, I guess just to show. It would have been more exciting if you didn't see if someone was infected or not. Right? Then it would be more you not knowing who to trust instead of the guy just grabbing those like Patriot style Ray-Bans or whatever he was wearing.
Randy Savage
style glasses.
So thank you for replying to that one. Homeschooled Film School on Twitter says the ripped off Fantastic Voyage with Raquel Welch, or maybe that Raquel Welch vehicle ripped off the classic Doctor Who.
You brought that up. I think you were that definitely came before this.
Yes, definitely did. It came in the 60s.
And I'm sure that heavily inspired this, and they would probably be the first to tell you that.
Yes. If time travel ever does become a reality, who will steal ideas from whom? Good point. They go on to say, when I was younger, I thought Star Trek The Next Generation had real breakthrough idea with the Borg. But then, as I've been sorting through the classic Doctor Who, I came to realize that Who did the same concept first with the Cybermen. Same thing. Yeah, I mean, so that's, it's, I guess, not uncommon for genre stories to kind of borrow from each other and build on top of the same kind of ideas. So I would say that I prefer the Borg as an enemy to Cybermen. But
I couldn't tell you, Dan, because as you know, I famously have never seen Star Trek The Next Generation.
It is famous. None of the movies either, eh?
I've seen Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Well, that's a good one to see, but
which I liked as a kid. There were worms that went in your ears. There's a lot of worms in the 80s, right? So you have the worms that went in your ears in Star Trek II, and then you had the Bohr worms in Flash Gordon. and I had a thing for Ming's daughter, and that was setting me up on something weird going on with. Do you remember that scene when she's being tortured and they put boar worms on her back?
I do not. It didn't have much.
That had a very
as it did
deep
for you.
effect on a very young fella. I was like, I gotta see this movie again. Yeah, but anyway, I guess those were the only 2 worms. Not much of a trend, but it could have been.
I think you need 3 for a trend, so you didn't quite get there. That was a coincidence.
Yeah. Well, you had the Green Death. For Doctor Who. Worms were also involved.
Sure.
Anyway, you can return to the
moving on from that.
The listener's comment.
So again, thank you so much. But that was all the Twitter love. We didn't really get a bunch.
No,
of
and I think I
we also
forgot to post on Instagram, so people didn't even have a chance to write what they thought.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. But thank you so much for those who did. And, you can always let us know what you thought about the story whenever we post it. And put out all the GIFs that we're inevitably going to put out for this story. Although when we have these stories where it's just like not that this was a slog to get through, but it wasn't the most exciting story. Having to go back through another time, rewatch it, and pull out GIFs, this one's going to be kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I would say...
There's moments that are good.
There's probably moments that are really funny.
Worth GIFable.
Like the stupid enemy. But you're right, you may only have 3 GIFs.
It is quite possible. But so yeah, please let us know what you think there whenever we do post this, whenever you see it, and let us know what you thought about the story.
And other things.
Also, if you don't tweet, you can reach us on the email machines. So we're at the old Doctor Who show at gmail.com.
That's right.
We've got a couple of emails from you folks there. My computer is slow right now, and I'm waiting for my email to load.
Well, while you're waiting for your email to load, I will tell you, listeners, that what you should be doing is you should be watching our next story, which is the Time Meddler. So we're going all the way back to William Hartnell, and I'm very interested in this story because Ian and Barbara, previously on Doctor Who, had just left. So now we're going to get Vicky and the Doctor, and we've already spoiled it, right? So we know who another person is going to be because they were in the story we did before.
Yeah, it's going to be that stuffed animal.
Yeah, the stuffed animal, Steve. Steve the astronaut.
Steve the animal.
Steve the animal Steel. George the animal Steel.
That's right. That's a lot of WWF references for one podcast.
It is. It's more than we normally make. I like being in the color years these days, but I'm actually looking forward to that story just to see how they handle it. And it's a Douglas Camfield from the Camptown Camfields, so he's behind the camera. Who knows what'll happen?
People love that. So on the emails, we got one from our friend Kristaps. This email is concise, to the point.
Okay.
This is the story where the Doctor catches crabs.
That true.
That was it.
That's true.
He says you have no idea how long I've been holding on to this joke. So the crabs and the Doctor's balls in his head. That was pretty much this entire story. Those will be the gifts as well.
What are those giant balls?
You don't even need to.
So weird. Are they supposed to be white blood cells?
Yeah, those were. Yeah,
why were they hairy, Dan? It's all fine, right?
Why can't they be hairy? Be body positive, and we're talking about internal body.
That's true.
As well.
Internal body positive.
Internal body positive. And lastly, an email from our friend Paul Paranoid wrote he even admits a rather lengthy email. The thrust of it basically says the Invisible Enemy has taken a lot of criticism, and rightly so, as it is quite preposterous, but I dearly love it.
Really?
This is partly because I saw it on transmission at 7 years old.
Okay.
And because 7-year-old me got it. So that is true. Like, we do have to remember at times.
It's a kids show.
This is primarily a kids show.
Well, I will say this too.
Are we in our 40s reviewing a show from 50 years ago? Sure we are.
When we watch certain ones, I'm like, I don't know if people like this or not like this. And I like it, but I could see, I've done that whole thing. When I was watching this, I was like, this is probably one of the most hated shows. Like, I just felt like I knew that. And I think that
you should go, while I keep reading this, see if you can find the Doctor Who magazine rankings and see where this one falls.
I didn't even know there was a Doctor Who ranking magazine.
the Doctor Who magazine did, I think, a series of rankings, but see if you can find one. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Paul goes on to say the reasons he loved this: Tom Baker, couldn't agree more. Space stations and starships, yep, not bad. An unprecedented amount of ambitious laser gun battles.
There was a lot of laser gun
There were a lot of
battles.
them.
A
Were they
lot.
ambitious?
And because of the way
There were a
they
lot.
do the effects, you can't tell who's shooting at what. It's
No.
just hitting people, turning flashlights on and off.
And apparently K9 can only hit people in the knees, which is a good shot. Like, you should go for the knee. I think that's a good idea. But that's where he just kept hitting people in the knees. Incredibly striking science fiction ideas. The ideas were
Yeah, I
not
like
new.
the invisible enemy as virus pandemic
Mm-hmm.
thing that they had running.
And then lastly, as a big check mark in the win column is the unforgettable K9. Paul goes on to say. So there's a lot more here where Paul is trying to convince us
That it's good.
why this is a good story. But you guys have our opinion, and you have your own. This is what makes a fan community so interesting. Totally different feelings around these things. But thank you so much for Paul for writing. And if you guys want to do the same and write in the old Doctor Who show at gmail.com is the place to do that. Hey, Eric.
I couldn't
did you
find anything. I found
That's
the only
fine.
thing I could find for Doctor Who magazine is I found the top 10 stories of all time, and then the 10 worst stories of all time, and it is on neither list.
Okay.
If
that's
you're interested
surprising.
in the worst stories of all time, we have, this is from 232 down to 241. I guess there's only 241 stories. Space Museum, Rings of Akatan. I can't read too good. The Dominators, The Space Pirates, Underworld, Time Flight, aka Concord, Time Lash, Time and the Ronnie, Fear Her. Oh, Fear Her is a newer one, isn't it? So this must be
Yes.
a mix of new and old.
Yeah.
And the Twin Dilemmas, considered the worst story of all time. We've seen a lot of these.
We've seen a lot of them. We've
We've
survived
seen a lot
them.
of these. We've
That's pretty
seen
amazing.
Time Flight, certainly. Time Lash. Did we do Underworld? It sounds familiar. Time in the Ronnie, we did, and the Twin Dilemma.
So
I know. I'll do a little bit more. If we could get like a list, that would actually be
I
good
have.
too.
Okay, here we go. So this is Doctor Who Magazine 2014 user survey. At the time, they ranked 241 stories.
Hey now.
And The Invisible Enemy is squarely in the bottom third.
Yeah, see-
coming in at a cool 196.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Not
everyone's
one of the top
favorite.
ones. No.
But hey, it wasn't 6 parts. Could you imagine if it was 6 parts?
I thank the screenwriting gods every day that this was only four parts.
All right, Dan. Well, we talked
yeah, so
about
that was
what's
it.
next.
We got that. If you want to, if you want to tweet at us, Twitter, TODW Show, Instagram, same thing, TODW Show. You can email us at the old Doctor Who Show at thegmails.com. Eric, what is the next story? Did you already tell us what the next
I
story
did.
is?
We're going back to William Hartnell.
Yes. Yes.
So that's where we're going to find out what happens to William Hartnell post Ian and Barbara. R.I.P. Babs. I'll miss you forever. Yeah. Oh, and, buy Goblin. And if you bought it, leave a review. How's that? How's that for more homework?
Yeah, and if you haven't bought it yet, would you suggest maybe
Yeah, they
go
could
to
buy
the
it.
local independent bookstore?
Yes.
And
Oh,
request
absolutely.
it?
That should be your first stop. Obviously, Amazon is easy. I order plenty of things from Amazon.
That's where
if
I got
you're
mine from.
able to get it on Amazon, God bless you. But if you do have a local store near you, it's always better to go there. You give them some business, and they may order more than one copy. And now there's a chance someone else will find it.
Yeah. So
So it's all good. Yeah, honestly, people ask me, what's the best? It's like whatever works for you. And if you want to read it digitally, you can read it digitally. It's whatever, it's your life.
Oh, right.
Okay.
To your life.
To your
to
life.
your life. I'm not
So
sure what
your
that meant, but
life. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a yeah.
I'm just happy
Okay,
the
everybody.
story's over.
I think we both fell asleep in the back half of this one as well.
It was so hard. Yeah, this story is like an invisible enemy. It is like a virus that infects you, and it just drains all of your essence. It's like a little podling in the dark crystal, and it's just zapping us of all of our life essence.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
All right, peace out.
Okay, that's it, everybody. We'll let you get on with your lives. Thank you so much, and we will see you
Yeah,
again
see ya.
in 3 weeks.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Oh, I stopped an hour ago.
We were at a party. The earlobe fell in the day. Someone reached in and grabbed it. What a rock lobster! Rock lobster! Rock lobster! We were at the beach. Everybody had matching towels. Somebody went under a dock, and there they saw a rock. It wasn't a rock. Was a rock lobster. Rock lobster. Rock lobster.
Where's my robot? You know?